Okay, welcome back. So today we're going to make a goal menu similar to what Candy Crush has, so that when we start our game, we have specific goals for pieces that we're looking to gain as we go. So let's get started on that. The first thing I want to do is I want to create kind of a basic prefab for what I want my goal menu, or my goal, I don't know, not menu, but panel rather, to look like. So I'm going to take a look at this panel here, which I called background last time. I'm actually going to call this goals panel. And I just have some text, which is the goals. I'm going to change the size of this a little bit, bring it down, just so I can have my goals down here, and then I can have like stars up here depending on what the score is. Or something that shows maybe the score goals, something like that. I'm also going to turn this from that gray default color to something white, and I'm going to make it bold so that it stands out a little bit more. The other thing I'm going to do is remove the space I put there so it looks a little more centered. Alright, now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a panel underneath this that's going to essentially hold the goals. And to do that, I can do it two ways. I can add a panel, or I can add an image. A panel and an image in Unity are considered to be the same as far as the programming goes. The only difference is their presets. So if I right click on goal panel here, I'm going to go down to UI, and I'm going to just choose an image. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to size it so that it takes up space down here, just like that. And I'm also going to take this image and I'm going to make it mostly transparent so that it's just kind of there so that you can see it. As far as my anchors for this go, I'm going to change them to be bottom center. And I'm going to change this from being image to being called goal container. Alright, now inside the goal container, I want to create another little panel that's going to hold an image in itself and some text telling how many we've collected. So I'm going to right click on this, I'm going to choose UI, and again I'm going to make an image as my default for this. And I'm going to just kind of position it over here so I can get an idea of the size it has. And I'm not going to worry about the anchors on this, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make this mostly transparent, and I'm going to call this my goal prefab. Now, as a child to this, I'm going to make two things. The first thing is going to be an image. I know we're making a lot of children here, but we got things nested inside of things, and there's reasons for that. I'm going to have this, rename this image to be goal image, and I'm going to anchor that to upper center. And then inside my goal prefab, I'm also going to create some text. So UI text. And I'm going to resize this down here so that it's inside there. I'm going to center it both directions. I'm going to change it to say 0 out of 0. Let's make it bold. Let's make it white. Yeah, that'll be good. And then the other thing I want to do is choose best fit, and I want my best fit to go from really small to, yeah, that's fine, up to 40 is fine. Best fit. Alright, and then my text I'm going to anchor bottom center. Alright, cool. So I got my goal prefab here. I'm going to take my goal prefab, I'm going to add it to my prefabs folder, which is getting a little crowded here. I'm going to create a folder inside this just to organize it a bit. We'll call this piece prefabs so that I can take all my make piece prefabs and put them in there. So I got my adjacent marker, breakable tile, column, dark green dot, green dot. I'll leave my hint particle. Let's put all these in there. And then also all of these. All right, that's a little more organized now. I'm going to take my goal prefab and add it to my prefabs folder so that it's something I can access again and again. So I'm going to have more than one of these. Now I'm going to delete this from the scene. All right, cool. Now, the reason that I said that anchors didn't matter on the goal prefab is because I'm going to go to the goal container here. I'm going to create something called a horizontal layout group. And this is something that repositions the children of this object to be organized so that they have a certain amount of space between each other. So I'm going to go over here to add component. I'm going to search for layout, and I've got a bunch of different kinds of layout things. I've got layout element, grid layout group, horizontal layout group, which is what we want, and then there's vertical layout group. I'm going to choose horizontal layout group. I'm going to put a little bit of spacing here, say 10 pixels, not too much. I'm going to align the children to middle center. I don't want to expand the width, and I'll let the child control the size on these. For padding, I'm going to put, say, 10 pixels padding on left and 10 pixels padding on the right. Okay, so now when we add stuff to this container as children, they'll automatically resize themselves to fit in here nicely. So there we go. Okay, I need to make another goal container to go in the top UI up here. So to do that, just for the moment, I'm going to take my fade panel and I'm going to deactivate it so that I can't see it. And then I'm going to go in here. Let's rename this from image to top UI, just like the top thing is. And then let's call this score bar. I don't know why I didn't do that before. We're going to make a child of this top UI. We're going to make another image. And I'm going to bring this over here. And I'm going to resize it to be about the same size as that little cutout I made. And I'm going to make it fully transparent so I can see where I'm going. So let's do something like that. Then I'm going to directly set the anchors here to be on this box. I don't want to have it be in either of these corners here because then it could shift around based on screen resolution. So I'm just going to have them directly be the corners of this box. I'm going to call this goal container. And I'm going to add to this another horizontal layout group. This is significantly smaller though, so for my padding I'm only going to have 2 pixels and 2 pixel spacing. Sorry for that weird cut there. I'm going to make sure that I have my child alignment to middle center. And then I want to do the same setup I did with my other panel. Let's check it really quick here. My goal container. Okay. Child control size for width and height, and force expand for height. Alright, cool. So I got my two goal containers. I have my goal prefab made. Now the next thing that we're going to do is actually create the code for all of this. So, oh, one more thing too, really quickly. I have my board, I have a score manager, a sound manager, an animation controller. I'm going to create another empty game object here, and I'm just going to call this my goal manager. Alright, cool. So I'm going to go to my scripts here, and I'm going to create a new script. I actually need 2 of them. So I'm going to create a C# script that I'm going to call goal manager. And I'm going to create another C# script that I'm going to just call goal panel. There we go. Alright, cool. So I have goal manager and I have goal panel. I'm going to open both of these up in Visual Studio, and I didn't have Visual Studio open up already. So I will meet you back here once that loads. Okay, so I'm taking a look at my goal manager here. Now the very first thing I want to do is I want to create a teeny tiny class that's going to be a data container that's going to kind of be a prototype for what I want my level goals to look like. So up here, before I create my goal manager class that inherits from mono behavior, I'm going to create another class that I'm going to call blank goal, let's say. So this is going to be a public class, blank goal, and it's not going to inherit from anything. It's just going to be a data container. Now when you're creating these blank classes, because I'm going to want to make some changes to it, you're going to have to do something called serializing it, but I'll get back to that in a second. So what I want my goals to consist of is they should consist of an integer value for a number of goals that are needed, or a number of whatever it is, pieces or jellies or whatever. It should also consist of an integer value for the number that are collected. I also want to have a sprite, which is going to be what the goal looks like so that the user can see. So sprite, call this goal sprite. And then I also want to have a string value to determine whether or not the goal matches a piece that was destroyed. So I'm going to do string, we'll call this match value. Okay, now for my goals, sometimes you might want to have one goal, sometimes you might want to have two or three. I'm going to have an array that depends on the level, and this is going to be a public blank goal array, and I want this to be called, let's say, level goals. All right, now if I save this and go back into Unity, it's going to import. If I go to my goal manager and attach the goal manager script to it, once it's done compiling here, cool. So with the goal manager script, none of that showed up, and there's two reasons for that. First, I'm going to need to make these public. So public integer, public sprite, and public string. So if I save again, and if I go back into Unity, it's going to be a little weird because you still don't see an ability to add or change anything in the inspector, even after it compiles. And it seems really weird because whenever you've set things public before, it's been totally fine. And I may have covered this earlier, I don't remember. The reason why is because this is an information containing class that we created ourselves. In order to have it appear in the editor, I have to make it serializable, which is how Unity saves things from scene to scene. So in square braces, I'm going to do system.serializable. And this is to that blank goal class, not to the blank goal array. This is going to make this blank goal class exposed to the editor so that the editor can make changes to it. So if I go back into Unity now after saving, I should see that array pop up. So now I'm able to change the level goals. And let's say I want 3 of them. I have element 0, element 1, element 2. Now, I'm going to say that I need 5 of each. So 5 of this, 5 of that, and 5 of that. My number collected, I'm going to leave 0. My goal sprite, so I'm going to do the circle selector. Let's say one of them's a blue candy. Let's say another one's a red candy. And another one is a green candy. Now this doesn't mean anything to anything yet until we tell it which value to use, because remember how we're finding matches in this game is entirely through Unity's tag system. And so what we want to do is we want to have a setup where if we look at these piece prefabs, and if I look at my dark green dot, which is the green candy, its tag is capital D dark, capital G, green, capital D, dot, with spaces in between. This needs to be the tag that matches that green candy. So if I go back to goal manager, green candy, my string for that is dark green dot. Now I need to do the same thing for the red candy and the blue candy. So for the red candy, it's capital R, red dot. So red dot. And then for the blue candy, I think that got put in here as indigo, yeah. Capital I, indigo dot. Now, I probably should go back and change my tags to have these reflect what they actually are. Like I should probably have my tag say that this is blue candy instead of indigo dot, but I'm not going to do that right now. So my match value for the blue candy is indigo dot. All right, cool. So those are my level goals here. Now if I hit play, nothing's going to happen because I'm not doing anything with this information. So let's start doing stuff with it. Let's go back to our goal manager script here, and I'm going to make a few global variables. The first one I want to make is a reference to my goal prefab, and I'm just going to store that as a game object. So public game object, I'm going to call this goal prefab. I'm also going to make a reference to the containers on the intro screen and on the game screen. So public game object, we'll call this goal intro parent, and public game object, we'll call this goal game parent. So these are going to be what I'm going to be creating this prefab on. Okay, so let's go with setting up the prefabs. So I'm going to create a new method here. It doesn't have to be public, so I'm just going to call it void. I don't know why Visual Studio keeps doing that. Set up goals. Actually, let's be specific. Set up intro goals. So this is going to be for the intro scene and not the game scene, or not scene, but screen rather. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to say for integer I equals 0. So I'm going to loop through all of my level goals here. So I less than level goals dot length, and I want to increase I every loop. What I want to do is I want to create a new, so create a new goal panel at the goal intro parent position. And the reason I want to do this is I don't have to worry too much about exactly where I'm placing it because of that horizontal layout group. If I just create them at that parent's position, the parent will automatically rearrange them thanks to using that horizontal layout group. So I'm going to say game object goal is equal to instantiate. I want to instantiate the goal prefab. I want to instantiate it at the intro parent's position. Goal intro parent dot transform dot position, and I want it to have no rotation. Quaternion dot identity. All right, cool. So I'm going to be creating that there, and now, just because I'm creating it there, though, it doesn't. The magic of the horizontal layout group doesn't work yet. In order to make it work, I need to parent it to it. So I'm going to say goal dot transform dot set parent, and the parent I want to set it to is goal intro parent dot transform. All right, cool. So I'm going to save this really quickly here. And I'm going to go back into Unity, and now I need to assign some stuff. So once this is done compiling, cool. So it wants to know what the goal prefab is. That's that right there. It wants to know what the goal intro parent is. Let's see, that's going to be this one here, goal container. Yep. And it wants to know what the goal game parent is, and that's this one right there. Now if I hit play, even though I set information into those level goals, it's not going to change the prefab at all yet. Oh, I forgot to call my method. It's not going to change the prefab, but it will create the goals so that we can actually take a look at it. So I'm going to save this really quickly. I'm going to pop back into Unity and hit play. And let's see this kind of drop in. Okay, cool. So it created them, but we don't have any space in between them. And I think that's because, yep, I needed to have child force expand width turned on. And so you can see how this would be our 3 goals. Goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, 0 out of 0. So let's change that to child force expand width, and let's do the same thing here. Let's try it just by hitting plus or play now. Okay, nice. All right. Now I can do pretty much the same thing for my game goals. I can do pretty much the exact same thingy thing, or I could just create it again in here. So I'm going to say game object, game goal equals, and then I'm going to take the rest of this line right here, I'm going to copy that, I'm going to paste it down here, and I'm going to change it from being goal intro parent to being goal game parent. And then I'm going to copy this line too, and I'm going to paste it down here. I'm going to change that from goal intro parent to goal game parent. All right, so now if I save, I can go back into Unity here and hit play, and that'll start as soon as it's done compiling. And we'll see our, oops, what did I do wrong? Oh, haha, that's what I did wrong. I set the transform of the goal. This needs to be game goal. There we go. All right, so at the intro parent position, let's comment this too. Create a new goal panel at the goal game parent position. Okay, cool. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to pop back into Unity here, and I'll hit play. And we'll let that slide in again, just like it did before. And there we go. Goal 1, 2, 3. If I click OK, it goes out. Oh, I never made that. Is that what the problem? Did I not make that box transparent? Goal container. Oh, it's the images. Okay, cool. I know what the issue is. So, yeah. So here's what's happening. So in my goal prefab, right here, the way I anchored this, I anchored it to the top, but I don't really want to do that because that image was too big. So I'm going to do something different here. I'm just going to grab my goal prefab, pull it onto my goals panel so I can look at it again. And I want to change the way I did my anchors. So I want to take my goal image and I want to anchor it specifically to where it is. That way it's not going outside of the container like it was a second ago. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my text here. I'm going to anchor it specifically to where it is. So it's going to be stuck in that box. Now because I made changes to a prefab, these changes don't take effect on the actual prefab unless I make sure to click apply. So I'm going to do that, and then let's just delete this, and let's try that again. So if I hit play, I feel like I'm going really fast again. All right, there are my goals, and there they are. They're super small. I should probably make this box bigger. I should make a new version of the UI with a bigger box, but on a higher resolution display, that would probably look okay. All right, cool. So now let's get to making those goals reflect what's actually happening in the game. So if I go back into Unity here, I'm going to go back to that script I created, which was just for the goal panel. And this script is here to do things like change the image and reflect the text. So the first thing I have to do is, since I'm going to be using the text component, I need to make sure that I'm using unityengine.ui. So up here in my using tags, I'm going to add using unityengine.ui. All right, cool. Now, for my global variables, I'm going to make a reference to an image. I'm going to make this public. So public image, I'm going to call this image. And I'm also going to make a reference to a sprite. So public sprite, this sprite. I'm going to make a reference to the text. Text, this text. And I'm going to make a string for what I want to set that text to be. So this is going to be public string, this string. All right, cool. I don't need an update method with this. I can just create another setup method here. So void setup. And in the setup method, what I want to do is I want to say this image. I want to change the sprite of it to be equal to this sprite. And this sprite is going to be set when we create it. I also want to change this text. I want to grab the text component of the text is equal to this string. And then I want to call this method from start. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go back to the goal manager here. And what I want to do is when I'm creating this goal panel, I want to set the image and text of the goal. And so to set the image, I'm going to say, I want to grab the goal panel of this goal. So goal panel, I'm just going to call it maybe like, I don't know, panel is equal to goal.get component. And the component I want to get is the goal panel component. Let me just separate with some white space here between these. So now I want to say panel.thisSprite is equal to level goals I dot goal sprite. So that's going to set its sprite correctly. And then I also want to say panel.thisString is equal to yeah, we're just going to do 0/0 or okay, 0/ and then I want to add to this however many I need of that goal. So level goals I dot number needed. All right, cool. So I'm going to save this, and I haven't done anything to the game goals yet. I'm just doing this to the one that shows up on the intro screen. But when I hit play, it should look more like an actual goal panel now. So let me hit play here, and we'll see that fall down and be super weird. What am I doing wrong? Goal container. Somehow it's only seeing one of them now. Why is that? So goal instantiate, goal transforms a parent. Oh, that's why. I probably got a null reference exception error, didn't I? Yes, I did. And I got that because I put way too much stuff ahead of myself. So if I go to my prefabs here, I want to go to my goal prefab. I never actually attached the script to it. So I'm going to attach my goal panel script. it needs to know what the image is. So if I go back to my prefabs, goal prefab, my goal image is the image. Don't worry about the sprite, and my goal text is the text. There we go, that's better. That's why it only created one. So if I hit play now, so there we go. There are my 3 goals. But if I hit OK, didn't change anything on here. So in order to change that, I'm just going to take this line, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it down here. And instead of calling it, actually, I can just do that. So, okay, just to explain what I just did. Okay, sorry about that weird cut. So what I'm doing here is I already created a container for a goal panel, and I don't need that container again. So down here, rather than creating a new container and calling it like panel 2 or game panel or something like that, I can just keep using that same container. I probably could have done that with this too. Yeah, I could have. It's not a big deal though. I'm going to save my script here really quickly. I'm going to jump back into Unity and let's give this a try. So I'm going to hit play and let's see if it worked the way I wanted it to. And if it did, I'm going to have to split this video into 2 pieces because this is already pretty long. Oop. No, it did not. Why not? What did I not do? So panel E, oh, haha, because this is still the goal panel. I need to have it be the game goal panel. So, there we go. Okay, cool. So now panel is equal to game goal.get component. All right, so if I go back into Unity now and hit play, we're gonna see our little panel slide in, just like that. So we got our pieces, and each of them are in like a little frame, and we got some text telling us how many we need. If we click OK, we go back here. I've got this spacing too big. It's making it look kind of distorted, and this just in general needs to be bigger. It should probably be like that big, but we have this too. Now, it's not actually keeping track of anything, so like if I make, for example, a match here, it should say that I've got 3 of them, but it's at least registering the goal, which is a good step forward. I wasn't planning on splitting this into 2 parts, but this is already a super long video for me. So the second part's going to come out tomorrow, and we'll go from having these to having them actually be scripted up and working like they should be. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. You can join me on Discord, where I'm chatting pretty much every day. You can follow me on Twitter to find out exactly when I post a new video. Other than that, I hope everybody's having a great day. Bye.